Sorry, Shane Dawson just played me back on Song Pop 2, so. Hi guys, it's Bird and welcome to my channel. Last night on Twitter I asked you guys if you had any questions about paranormal investigations and psychic-like abilities. Nobody had any questions. I think 2 of you guys asked something, so I reached out to my friend Bree and got some questions from her. So I'm going to be answering those and then just common questions that get asked a lot. Alright, so these are some of the questions that Bree had asked. Which paranormal activity freaks you out the most? And I don't mean the movies. Oh god. I would have to say it was when I was 3 years old. We lived in a house that was very, very haunted. When we first moved in, a woman came and knocked on our door and asked if she could put flowers in one of the bedrooms because her brother had died in there. So the story is for a whole nother video. It's very long. It's crazy. So I was 3 years old. I was in the basement. I turned around to talk to my older brother, and I just saw him moving from right to left. And I remember seeing his left side, and he had ginormous teeth, and he looked like a skeleton. And to me, when I was little, I called skeletons boneheads. So for the longest time, until I found out who he was, that's what I called him. And just seeing that, it was pretty scary. But I was also 3, so back then I didn't really understand that I could do what I can do. So it was pretty frightening for a 3-year-old. Later on, we found out that this spirit was actually attached to me. So if you want to see a video on that, please give it a thumbs up and let me know. Because I mean, I recorded talking about it before, and it took me about 45 minutes. It's a pretty decent story. I also actually called into Art Bell, if you guys know who that is, 2-3 years ago. I think it was in 15 that I got recorded, and I'll insert a clip of that and me talking to him. What crazy encounter have you had when out with your team? I've had 2. So back to the last story, we'll say my attachment had actually reached out through one of our echo boxes where he could just speak and you could hear his voice, and found out some information on that. And in that same session, something else was coming through, and one of the other sensitives on the team was talking to this entity that came off like a little kid, and he was crawling on the ceiling and just slowly turned his head back and looked at this team member. I don't know if I can say his name. And as a child, just with his neck all the way turned around, he looked at him and smiled and said, "Can you die?" I was actually, because we were at a courthouse, I was upstairs when that was going on, so when I came down to the courtroom, they were still in session, and I missed that part. So I got to kind of interact with that a little bit towards the end, and it was very intense and very overwhelming, but it was pretty cool to experience. Where are some of the oddest places you've seen or felt the presence of spirits? It was actually when I was with her. We were at a bar in 2016. We were actually with the team that I investigate with, and they had mentioned something about a spirit being there, and they were like, you know, are you picking up on anything? Well, I was at a nightclub, and I was a little bit drunk, so I really didn't want to pick up on too much because I don't like mixing the two. Some people don't like to mix drugs and alcohol. Some people don't like to mix alcohol and abilities to talk to dead people. But I did pick up on a little bit. There was a woman there. Yeah, definitely the weirdest place. The bar actually is in Kansas City. It's a great place. Otherwise, I love it there. When did your abilities start? I noticed when I was 3 years old with the last story. That's when I knew something. Obviously because I could see them, so. But they could have started sooner. I don't know. I just remember my first time experiencing anything like that was when I was 3 years old. Okay, and I think that's all Bree had to ask. Mike asked, describe your best and worst experience being a paranormal investigator. Best experience, all of it. I mean, it's really cool to be able to do what I do. We've had a lot of great opportunities. If you guys have seen The Gallows, that movie came out in I think 2016. Actually, I don't want to look like an asshole, so let me look it up. 2015. Best experiences, I mean, yeah, like we've gotten a lot of great opportunities. I've gotten to be in the same theater as Adam and Amy from Ghost Hunters, and my team actually got to meet them after. Well, they've already had met. That was my first time being able to be in that situation with them. We were at a theater watching the premiere of Ghost Adventures when Zach Baggins and the team went to a winery in Liberty, Missouri, which we had investigated before, so it was really cool to watch that. And that's another thing, it's really cool to watch stuff like that because it's confirmation. Like, the same thing that Zach and them picked up on, we did too. And they were there, I mean, just, I think a couple weeks after we were. So that was pretty cool. Worst experiences, haven't really had anything. I mean, it's all pretty great as long as you're smart and can keep yourself protected, because obviously things can attach to you and follow you home. But I really haven't had any bad experiences, except for, again, with the attachment, because we found out some things that, I mean, it's a whole nother video. It's a completely different thing. I don't even know how to say his name. This guy wants to know if you can fuck a ghost. Yes, absolutely. Have you heard of Kesha? There's actually a thing, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, but I believe it's called spectrophilia, where you have a sexual attraction to ghosts. With that being aside, there are types of demons that you can't actually sleep with. One of them is actually commonly pretty known. It's called succubus, and it is a woman demon that can absolutely have sex with you. Okay, so these are some common questions that I'm asked quite a bit. Do I believe in God? Yes, absolutely. Do I believe in hell? Not so much. The scariest thing I've seen, again, when I was 3, bonehead. How do ghosts not know they're dead? That really just depends. Their death could have happened so quickly and so traumatically that it just took them like that, and they have no idea. Like, it happened so fast, they still think they're living. What is astral projection? Well, there are 2 types of projections. One is called astral projection, and the other one, I don't remember, and I'm looking online and I can't find it anywhere. Astral projection is an out-of-body experience where you can go off into outer space, you can go to different planets, etc. The other type of projection is where you can get out of your body and go anywhere on Earth, and I don't know what that's called. Can they see you? Yes, sometimes, not all the time, and I wish I knew what it was called. But when you have that projection where you can go anywhere you want on Earth, sometimes they can see your spirit, sometimes they can't. Supposedly ectoplasm has been left by doing that. Yes, sometimes they can physically see you, but not every time. Do ghosts sleep? No. We're all spirits. The difference is we have a physical body and they don't. So our body naturally needs rest. When you're a spirit, you don't have a physical body, you don't need to sleep. How do you talk to dead people? What is it like? It's different for certain types of people. When you have abilities, sometimes you'll just get images in your head. You'll get pictures, you'll get words. Sometimes, you know, you can hear them. You can hear them speaking. You can see them. You can communicate like you're talking to somebody right in front of you. So it really just depends on who you are and what kind of abilities you have. What is it like talking to dead people? It's pretty cool. Are deathbed visions real? I believe absolutely they are. So a deathbed vision is when you are dying and you start to see people who have passed on before you that you knew, like maybe parents or grandparents or friends, and before you die, like if you're really sick and in a hospital and you're dying, you will start to see your deceased loved ones. I do believe that's real. Hey, while I was recording yesterday, I got interrupted and I walked down to the park to continue where I left off. When I got back, I thought I lost the footage, so I recorded again later that night. Well, as I'm in here editing, I found it. It's so windy in the background, I only want to post one answer, so if you're wearing headphones, take them out, be ready for that. It's going to be a little loud. There's a part in there that I really liked and wanted to add in about us being physical bodies. I just wanted to post it because when I came back and recorded later that night, it was just a simple sentence continuing where I left off, like, yes, I believe in this. So also when I came back, everybody was asleep and I had to be quiet. Sorry about that. Okay, I got interrupted earlier, so I'm gonna head down to the park and talk to you guys. Hopefully there's not too much sound interference with the wind. But anyways, I do believe in that. I think that as you get closer to death and your physical body starts to die, I think that you do see spirits on the other side. You were closer to death, you're closer to becoming back to where you belong. You don't belong here on earth. When you're in your physical body, you are more limited. You can't really see the spirit world. But as you get closer to it and your body starts to die, I do believe that you can. So, back to the deathbed visions. I think when your physical body starts to weaken and die, you do start to see spirits around you. I do believe that. I think it is absolutely real. Are some people more susceptible to incubus and succubus attacks? I don't know, but apparently there is a ritual that you can do to summon them. How do I communicate with the ghost? There are many different ways. There is an Ouija board, which I do not recommend, and if you're going to do that, you need to say goodbye to the board before you end the session and close it up. There is EVP, which is a voice recorder. There is an echo box, which is my favorite. You get to actually hear their voices and talk through that, and it's pretty cool. There's something called an Alice, which is something, it's some kind of program on your computer, and it has so many words that they can pick and choose from, and then they just send it through. There's many different ways. I don't recommend you do it in your house though, unless for whatever reason you're trying to contact and talk to somebody that you think is in your house. I don't recommend, especially with an Ouija board, because those are so dangerous, and I believe that they bring in more negative and bad things than good. When you do stuff like that, other spirits around can recognize that, and they're going to want to come in, and then you're going to have all these spirits in your home, and you just don't want that. How do I get rid of a shadow person? I don't know, but I can tell you shadow people are not good, and that's a whole nother video. Is 3 a.m. a real thing? So 3 a.m., also known as dead hour or witching or witch hour, a lot of people believe that ghosts are more active during that time. Ghosts are active 24/7, all the time. Are Ouija boards dangerous? Yes, absolutely. What is a ghost? A ghost is your spirit. It's you without your physical body. Why can't I see ghosts? It just depends on how sensitive you are. There are some people who can't. To be a ghost in the same room as me and a friend, and say I would be able to see it, but they wouldn't. I mean, sometimes ghosts can pick and choose who they want to show themselves to, so it just depends. I had more people comment questions on my Twitter, so I'm going to go through those. Lydia asked, if you've ever talked to a ghost, what is the creepiest / most exciting conversation? There's been a couple. I've investigated a location near Kansas City quite a bit that I don't want to say on camera, but it's a historical site, and this woman was telling us that she had been raped, and this guy killed the baby, and it's pretty sad. The creepiest, I again wasn't there, I was there towards the end, but it was definitely when that entity on the ceiling of the courthouse smiled and turned and said, "Can you die?" That's definitely one of the creepiest. Alexis asked, how would you prove to a skeptic that ghosts truly exist? That's a good question. I mean, we would just have to take them on investigation with us to show them. I mean, if you're a skeptic, you're gonna take anything and say, oh, okay, well that could be fake, your machine could be fake, this could be fake. They would really have to experience something on their own, which sometimes, I mean, we've had people investigate with us and they do experience touches or feeling nauseous and lightheaded. I mean, if you're a skeptic, you're a skeptic. There's really no way to convince somebody that ghosts really do exist. It looks like that's all the questions, so I want to talk about something that happened today that coincides with this video. Today, May 9th, 2018, my grandfather's brother passed away. I posted on Facebook, "The world lost a great man today." That's all I said. Nobody knew he was sick. Nobody knew he had cancer. I didn't really talk about it with anybody. And a woman who myself and the team that I'm on have worked with before commented and said, "I am so sorry, Adria, sending you love and comfort on the loss of your grandpa." And I responded and said, "Thank you, it's my grandpa's brother." And she said, "Sorry, I just got a quick image of an older gentleman." That's just one of the things that I tried explaining earlier about having those abilities where you can get images in your head. She knew somebody passed away, she saw an older man and assumed it was my grandpa, although it was my great uncle. It's one of those things. So that's all I have for you guys today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want more like this, let me know. Keep asking me questions. If you guys have any more, please tweet me or Snapchat me. So those usernames/handles are twistxtheknife. I haven't learned how to do an outro yet, so I'm just gonna say bye. Bye.
Hello there, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, this is Adria, and I wanted to tell you about a paranormal attachment I had.
Okay.
It started when I was 3, and it was in an old house that my family and I used to live in. And I don't remember how many people died in the house, but I know there was quite a few. And my brother and I, we were playing in the basement one day, and I had turned around to tell him something and saw a blue, it looked like, I just saw the left side of him. It looked like a skeleton wearing a cloak. And I freaked out, and I started running up the stairs and banging on the door. I mean, the basement door was locked, and there was no way that, I mean, I was 3 years old. I was way too small. I couldn't reach the lock. My brother, you know, he was a child. He couldn't reach the lock. We didn't know how the door got locked. Yeah, kind of creepy. And then, I mean, I'm fairly sensitive, and I always felt him around me, but I never saw him. And on Easter, when I was 7 years old, a few years later, I was at my grandmother's house, and I felt him again. And I was so used to it, I didn't say anything, but it was Easter, so my dad was taking a lot of pictures, and at that time, he had taken a picture of me. And he loaded it to his computer and blew it up, and he saw like little bubbles behind my shoulder.
Really?
And when he zoomed in, it looked like that same face that I had saw, that skeleton face. And
do you still have the photograph?
I believe I do, yeah.
Dig it up, scan it, send it to me.
Oh, I will.
You know, we deal in that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll have to find it. But the thing about this skeleton face is that his teeth weren't like normal human teeth. I mean, they were, they look like it. They were just much larger, like much, much larger. When I was 15,
you mean like,
again,
for example, teeth that would go after a neck?
I mean, it was just like having teeth like we do, but just 10
Much
times bigger.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I felt him again when I was 15, and my dad walked up the stairs, and he said that he saw it watching me. And I mean, I was sitting right there, and I didn't see him, so I didn't quite understand how my dad could see him, but I couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked me, he was like, "Hey, you know what, can you describe to me again what you saw when you were younger?" And I described it.
Yes.
And he said, "I just saw that watching you from around the corner, but it wasn't blue, it was black." And that, I mean, from my understanding, a black figure is not good whatsoever. And so I asked him, you know, well, what happened when you saw him? And he said that he darted off into my bedroom. Freaky. And then last year, I was 21 years old, and I went on a paranormal investigation. And there's a sensitive on the team who actually picked up on him. And he started freaking out, and he stopped the investigation and went and talked to me outside. And he was like, "Have you ever used an Ouija board?" And I was like, "No, why?" And he said, "Well, you have some kind of attachment that's here with you tonight." And he's very angry. He actually thought he was a demon because the sensitive could pick up on him, and he didn't like that because he wasn't used to it. And he came at him like Lucifer himself. And I thought, that's pretty scary because I've always been with me, but he never did anything to harm me, you know?
Well,
so,
how old are you now?
22.
22.
Mm-hmm.
Just the right age. Well,
Oh.
Yeah, I know. I mean, usually if it's a movie and it's a good-looking young 22-year-old girl, she's about to be torn to shreds. Pieces.
Oh. Well, I actually joined that paranormal group.
Like Jello on the floor.
Oh my God. I joined that paranormal group and talked more with the sensitive.
Yes.
And they had a medium on the team who had left that crosses spirits over.
Yes.
And I went to talk with her, and she asked me. She was like, I want to do something. I want to talk to your soul, not your mind. And I gave her that permission, and she asked me questions, and we did that whole thing. And then she was like, okay, now I want to ask, is it okay if I have permission to talk to this attachment through you?
Yes.
And I said yes, and we got some answers. Apparently he knew me from a past life, and he said he was here to hurt me. But he was around since I was 3 years old, and I was 21 when we crossed him over.
Well,
so
see, he was just waiting for the right time.
Oh, that's true.
And maybe the right time is still not yet. Or are you here to tell me that she exorcised this demon from you, and you're now fine?
Well, that's what we're hoping.
I see. Well, in the movies, that's what they always hope. But then, at the end of most of those movies, it turns out that the exorcised demon simply moved or shifted to either somebody else or someplace else, and the person like yourself still ends up like, well, Jello. Well,
thanks. I feel good now.
I did what I could to help, and sleep well.
Thanks, Art.
See you later. Oh, all that JC2. Well, okay. That's it for tonight. I hope everybody out there across all the time zones has a great weekend. I am looking forward to a no-drama type weekend this weekend. I'm just going to relax, and I suggest you all do the same. So from the high desert and the great American Southwest, good night.